Welcome, everyone. We'll call this meeting to order for the County of Lennox and Addington Council for August 12th, 2026. So the first item up is a declaration of office for the new Deputy Mayor of Lilas Township, which will be our councillor on County Council. So I'll turn it over to the clerk.
I, Diane Pierce, having been appointed to the office of Councillor in the Municipality of County of Lennox and Addington, do solemnly promise and declare that I will truly, faithfully, and impartially exercise this office to the best of my knowledge and ability. I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise thereof for the exercise of this office in a biased, corrupt, or in any other improper manner. I will disclose any pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles III. And I make this solemn promise and declaration, conscientiously believing it to be true and knowing that it is of the same force and effect as if made under oath.
Thank you, and welcome, Councillor Pierce.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you. So the next item up is the adoption of the minutes from July 15th. Were there any errors or omissions noted? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion. Councillor Fritsch, so moved, seconded by Councillor Davison. I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. Then I would entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda. Councillor Weiss, seconded by Councillor Calver. All in favor? Motion is passed. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof for this evening's meeting? Seeing none. The next item up is the Warden's monthly activity report. Were there any questions or comments on this item? Seeing none, we would entertain a motion to receive. Councillor Hook, seconded by Councillor Fritz. All in favor? Motion is passed. And we are to delegations. Road signage for farm equipment. We have Mr. Kaiser here that is going to provide us with some information. So whenever you're ready, just make sure your mic is on and go ahead and perfect. You've got it?
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, and thank you to Council for welcoming me here tonight. Happy birthday, Mr. Calver. And I'm joined with Racy Walt. Racy is a member service representative from the Ontario Federation representing the Quinte counties. So a few years back, we at the Federation of Agriculture for Lennox and Addington procured some signs, road signs that feature the triangle SMV and the slow-moving vehicle emblem, and just to increase awareness on the roads, and we offered them to the county. We discussed it kind of informally in this room at the time, but it was referred to the TAC committee. The TAC discussed it, and they at the time felt it wasn't really the right signage for the county for a lot of reasons, and I respect that. A couple of the lower tiers did take the signs. Addington, Highlands, and Greater Napanee took a few each and put them up on some of their roads. But recently, we've had a member from north of Erinsville, specifically the Garrett family. They farm just north of Erinsville, but they also have properties up McGuire Road and some of the other side roads there. So they're on and off 41 with slow-moving vehicles as part of their normal activities. And due to the new waste management sorting facility at just south of Roblin, they've perceived an increase in heavy truck traffic coming up and down their roadways. And that's adding to, summertime cottage traffic and whatnot going up and down 41. And there's a pretty big speed discrepancy between, I call them four-wheelers, cars going up and down the road, and then heavy equipment like tractors and what you might be pulling. So they've seen the signs in neighboring municipalities. I know Tyendinaga has them on some of their roads, and like I said, Napanee has them on a couple of our roads, like Meach Road. So they'd seen them and they knew they were out there, and they asked specifically if we could help. They'd tried some measures to get some signage in their area. And so that's what brought us here tonight. So I wrote a letter, which I think you've all read, and it had the SMV emblem in a photo at the end of that letter. But in response to that, I was actually contacted by Mr. Wagger over the weekend, and I think I will, in the interest of time, I won't waste time, so I'll let Chris sort of maybe bring in his idea about what he had, because I was pretty receptive to the idea.
Thank you. Director?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Warden. After reviewing this back through our TAC minutes, as well as with other municipalities at the county level, the signs that we discussed are typically used and warranted at certain specific criteria, safety restrictions, sight lines, that sort of thing. So my discussion with Max was that I think that staff need to complete like a safety audit of the area to ensure that proper signage as approved by our policy, which is using the OTM Book 5 and Book 6 manuals from the province. And if those signs are warranted, we'll install those signs. That's looking at the Garrett safety issue and looking at their concern. On a second note, I think treating all of our roads equally is the fundamentals of what we do, and just putting signs up that are unwarranted aren't really supported by TAC or staff. But what I would be recommending to do is more of an information campaign, and working with our communications department, creating not quite a billboard size, but the size for our reconstruction, like a 4x4, 4x8 signage, and doing an information about agriculture, and including the slow moving vehicle sign, and notifying residents that there are a lot of farm equipment in the area is one thing. But if we move that, say 2 weeks or 4 weeks around to different farming areas, and we would have to work with the Agricultural Society to get a list of participants of farmers that want to participate, we could, one, do a safety message of here's where the signage today, and here's what that farmer in the area produces and offers, and where can you find it locally. Using Mr. Kaiser's property, I've grew up in Napanee, and he has chickens and eggs and beautiful sunflowers right now. And to be honest, for 49 years here in the county, I don't know where it goes or how it benefits the community. And I think from a learning perspective, that would be great. So that's where I think we should go, is more of an educational piece, and then that would be randomly throughout the county. And it doesn't have to be just on county roads. It can be on the local roads as well, and out on Amherst Island and up to Addington Highlands, and participate with the farmers that want to participate, and go from there. Happy to answer any questions should council have any.
Thank you, Chris. Did you have anything to follow up with?
I would, please. So it's actually the Federation of Agriculture. I'm also on the Ag Society, but that's a different group we're not talking about. So it actually fits really well with sort of our mandate, which is promoting agriculture, but also we're an advocacy group for agriculture. We have produced some signs that we've installed on field edges that say, this is a field of soybeans, this is what it's used for, and whatnot. But I really liked where Chris was going with this idea, and I think I had come here with the intention of asking for you to support the installation of these specific signs, but I think instead I'd rather support for us to work with Chris and the TAC to work on this sort of education and awareness campaign, which kind of covers a lot more than just the road safety. And like you said, maybe we can hit some targeted areas, but we're also moving it around so we're not highlighting an area of concern for you all to bear liability for. That's obviously not our intention, and treating all roads equally, because it does serve all of our members well to do that. So
Okay,
that's all I had to add.
thank you. Thank you for bringing it forward and for the discussions, working with Chris to come up with a potential resolve as well. Appreciate it. Council, any questions or comments? Councillor Calver.
Thank you, through your worship. Yeah, there's been, the amount of traffic is really, really increasing. And so whatever we can do to kind of help things out a little bit, because you've got cottagers, you've got Airbnbs all over the place. You've got a lot of people coming from cities, coming from different countries to visit, that aren't aware of these big pieces of equipment. And they don't stop on a dime. They don't stop on a quarter, for that matter. So whatever we can do to get it out there and let people know to try to help and save, it's a good thing for sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hook.
The signage that the director is proposing, is that, I'm just wondering, like on that particular highway that we're looking at, Highway 41 up by Clare River, the truck traffic on there that's going from 401 to number 7 to Ottawa and beyond, are they ever going to see that signage that we're proposing? Or if it's going to be moved around, it seems to me like you almost need a presence there at all times, because those people that are not local drivers, they're not going to maybe see this sign. So how do you reach out and make sure that the heavy truck driver and also the tremendous number of seasonal residents coming up on a Friday night, which is a lot of traffic, how are they going to know the message that there might be farm machinery on the roads? Just my concern.
Okay. Thank you. Director, did you want to speak to that?
Yes, so through you, Mr. Warden, we can move them around on county roads. The section from Highway 7 north, which is where the truck traffic you're speaking of, that's MTO jurisdiction. We can see if we can work with them, and we'd have to go through a permit process to have our signage placed within their right-of-way. It is possible, but it's a little bit of a process to get approval for that, and they might have specific situations. But moving it around would go to the point of if it's in one spot, and it's like, because we have agriculture throughout our county, so where do we stop putting them? Do we just put them at one location, or do we put them every 3 kilometers on the road? It's like, where do you stop? But we also have ATVs and bicycles and everything else. So we just want to highlight potentially, agricultural areas, or where current farmers feel like there's an issue. But if the signs aren't warranted, we can just put them there as an information, as a short-term solution, and they just randomly move around the county. But that's only the one aspect of that. The other aspect would be the social media and the posts of putting it out. And every time we do it, it's here's where the sign is now, reminder to slow down for slow moving vehicles. It's, planting time, it's harvest time, it's manure time. I don't know the times, Max, I apologize. But it's all of these different times, and here's what could be going on in your area. But then again, looking at Garrett's, here's the Garrett family. They've been farming from whatever time they farm to, and this is their area, and they provide local beef, and here's where you can provide local beef through Naturally L&A and tie it into our businesses, and then that helps everybody. Hopefully I answered your question. I apologize, Ken, but
Councillor.
Just to clarify, I wasn't thinking of the provincial highway 41 north. There's no farms up there, so just 41 south, the county road. Thank you, Director.
Thank you.
I think Councillor Hook made a good point, though, that when you turn north from the 401 on 7, or sorry, when you turn north on 41 from the 401, that's a key spot where we believe it's warranted as soon as you leave Napanee or even north of Selby, that those farms that are using that road. We had another farmer who expressed a concern a few years ago closer to Napanee because of a closure of a small municipal road, that he was forced to go out on 41 and come back in just to get to the north end of his farm, which is on the other side of a creek. Anyways, point being, a sort of a continued signage presence would be warranted, and I hope that the traffic study that you suggest might yield that need somewhere, but it's certainly a concern. But we're also, I would say that farmers read the calendar too, so we know when Friday night of a long weekend is, and we try to avoid that if we can, but not everybody can. You know, sometimes the animals still need to be fed. So anyways, we're just asking for some cooperation and do what we can.
Thank you. And just looking at the director, a lot of the questions and concerns, I believe that would probably be part of the discussion at TAC and determination of number of signs and locations and the criteria, I guess, eh?
Yeah, so we're aware of only one safety concern that has been brought forward at this time, and that's the Garrett Farm on County Road 41. So we'll look at that to see if there's any signage as per the OTM traffic manuals for those issues. And if they are warranted, we will install those signs. I'm referring to like the white signs with the slow-moving vehicles of and what they're used for. Again, like we wouldn't just put those there. We'd put like hidden entrance or you know, farm equipment or cattle crossing, like whatever that farmer is doing. You'd put a sign that's appropriate for the use of that sign to their use. But then the white signs with the slow-moving vehicles that we're tying into the information and the communication piece, I was suggesting just 2 signs, one, you know, northbound, southbound, and one southbound or eastbound, westbound, and they would just randomly move around every 2 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever. And all depends on the number of farmers that want to participate as well. And that would just move around through the community from spring till winter, basically, until the plows are on the road, and then we take them off, and then we start again next year with new farms, new locations, and new information to our public.
Okay, thank you. Were there any other questions or comments from council? Councillor Weiss.
Yes, thank you. I think it's a great idea, any sort of initiative that we take here. I was just sort of visualizing scenarios while you were discussing this, and I like the idea of them moving around a little bit. Whatever sort of permanent areas might be warranted, that would be great too. But I think the novelty and the renewal of having the sign show up in different places is going to catch people's attention. And I was also wondering to what extent communication happens between farm organizations and trucking companies and cottagers associations and that sort of thing. Maybe your colleague there, Max, might have some insight to share on something like that about farm traffic on the roads at certain times.
Could you, if you wouldn't mind just coming up to the mic?
Sorry,
that way the virtual audience can hear it as well.
Didn't mean to drag you in here.
Thanks. We do put resources into provincial campaigns, but it kind of feels like a drop in the barrel a lot of the time. So we have, like, at the OFA level, invested in billboard signs in cottage country. We did that for a summer, but it's just hard to measure the impact of that. And we use social media all the time, and it just, we've talked about this a lot locally, and Max made a great point. I think it means more when it comes from your neighbor, like when your neighbor's sharing that information to you, rather than just provincially seeing it on a big billboard, I guess. I don't know. Does that answer your question?
Well, yeah. Drops in the bucket are better than nothing in the bucket, right? We're all competing for attention in all kinds of areas. Just while you were speaking, it occurred to me, big billboards, maybe not a huge impact, but a pamphlet at a farm stand, thanks for shopping locally. Be aware that at harvest time there's slow moving, the sort of thing I'm talking about.
Yeah. I think when this originally was discussed a few years ago, the naysayers talked about sign pollution and that type of thing. So I do like the idea of a rotating sign. I think that's a great idea. But yeah, we originally came here with that targeted area around Aaronsville. So I think that's one situation we definitely want to see addressed. But this broader initiative would be fantastic. And as a volunteer organization, LAFA, I know would be willing to like have a committee person sit on that. So, and I would be happy to as well. So,
Thank you.
I'll just add one more thing. And when I was talking to Chris, this came to mind that we have a number of sort of point sources like the waste management plant, CAT trucking, Verbruggen, titanium. I was hoping maybe there's an opportunity through the Natural LNA people or economic development to reach out to those trucking companies specifically and just sort of say, hey, we're working on this information blitz, and we know you're operating on our roads and you're a big outfit. Maybe you should just have some increased awareness among your drivers. And I thought that might be an opportunity for us to be a little more proactive in that way.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Fritz.
Through Mr. Warden, yeah, just a couple comments. I certainly support the initiative. I think it's a great thing. When you look at the very far north end of our municipality, specifically Addington Highlands, and Councillor Hook was referring to, not too many farms up there. There are some farms in that area, and probably any farmer pretty well knows of every other farmer in that area. And I can tell you for certainty, there are specific periods of the year where, whether you're on a provincial road, a county road, or a township road, there are specific areas which are extremely hazardous and are the only areas that the farmers are actually on. So it's not that we travel all the roads. It would be easy to do some educational campaign in Addington Highlands, but it would be very specific in local areas. And anything you could do would be helpful, because I know if you're on one of those roads, you pray every time you pull the tractor out, and you thank the Lord every time you pull back in your driveway. So it's just about that simple. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? If not, thank you so much for both, Rezi and Max, for being here this evening and providing us with the information. And as I expand a little bit, and I'm on county roads now as well as slower roads, the hazard is very real. It is. And so that's, it's great that you brought it forward. So with that, if there's nothing else from council, I would entertain a motion to receive and something along the lines of request staff to investigate implementation of farm safety / information signs. Does that cover it, Director, for you?
It does. I'll also add for safety officers to make sure that staff are directed to do the safety associated with the property as discussed.
Okay. And for staff to complete a safety study for warrants of signs. Okay. Is that okay? Okay, so if that's good, do I have a mover? Mr. Calver, Councillor Calver, and Councillor Weiss. Any final comments? Call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. Thank you. And next up is the auditor's presentation from KPMG, and your mic is probably already on, so whenever you're ready, just you can proceed.
Thank you, and hopefully I'm loud and clear. Excellent. Thank you, and good evening, everyone. Very happy to be here today to be presenting the KPMG's audit findings report for the year ended December 31st, 2025. Laurie Huber, who typically does this presentation, does convey her regards. She's actually taking some time off. She's on a sabbatical until November, I believe, so in her absence, filling in for her today. And before I get started with the presentation, just a quick round of thanks to the finance team, especially Mark, for all the help during the course of the audit. So special thanks to Mark for that. And if you had a chance to review the audit report before the meeting tonight, the audit went really well, very much in accordance with our audit plan for the year. We do have one item which I will be touching upon in further detail later on during the course of this presentation. So, sorry. So on page 5 of the audit findings report, we have the current status of the audit. And as of today, the audit is substantially complete. The only remaining procedures is completing the presentation here tonight with council, as well as obtaining council's approval on the financial statements. Once we do receive the approval of the financial statements, we will be finalizing the audit report for the year ended December 31st, 2025. Sorry. Slide 8 speaks to materiality, and as you can see, materiality in the current year has increased to 2.7 million compared to 2.6 million in the prior year, and which is perfectly normal, considering materiality is always set based on the size and volume of operations of the county. And as the operations increase year over year, materiality will be adjusted accordingly to reflect the change. The next slide speaks to risk assessment. KPMG's audit is a risk-based approach where we look at the financial statements as a whole and we look to identify which areas are prone to a greater risk of material misstatement. And on completion of our risk assessment procedures, we did not identify any new areas in comparison to the prior year, so nothing has changed in that regard. And I probably should have said this at the beginning, but at any point, if there's any questions, do feel free to let me know. Page 11 does contain one matter which we would like to bring to council's attention here tonight, and it pertains to the newly formed Southeast Health Unit. So the new health unit came into effect on January 1st, 2025, as a result of the merger of the former health units being Kingston, Hastings, and Leeds. Since the new health unit is a newly incorporated legal entity, management was required to make the determination if it continues to meet the definition of a partnership under Canadian Public Accounting Standards. And the key consideration when it comes to whether it's a partnership or not is whether the county is able to exert control in terms of the financial and operational activities of the health unit. And upon completion of this assessment by management, it was deemed that they do not meet the definition of a partnership, and hence these financial statements do not include the results of the health unit. Now, the conclusions which were reached by management over here is very much in line with what we had seen across other neighboring upper tier municipalities. So pretty much everyone was of the opinion that the control requirement was not being met. And as a result, the health unit's results have not been consolidated. Now, because of this change in terms of the accounting policy, management had to remove the previously consolidated results of the health unit, and this resulted in a 2.5 million adjustment to the accumulated surplus of the county. And since it's the health unit's first year of operations, and the audit of the health unit is yet to be completed for 2025, management will be continuing to carry out this assessment on a year-by-year basis just to ensure that their determination still remains appropriate in terms of whether it's a partnership or not. On the next slide, we come to audit misstatements. And as you can see, we have not identified any corrected or uncorrected misstatements this year, and which again speaks to the quality of the bookkeeping and financial records of the county. So there are no matters to report in this regard. When it comes to control deficiencies, we are required by audit standards to carry out an assessment of the internal control environment of the county, specifically when it comes to the financial reporting process, and we are required to make a communication to council if we have identified a significant deficiency in this regard, and I would like to state we have not identified a significant deficiency for the year ended December 31st, 2025. We have highlighted two observations on the following slide, which has more to do with better ways to improve the internal control practices. So both these observations had been identified in prior years. They do not pertain to the current year. We did communicate these items to management during the course of the audit, and management is in the process of working on these items going into 2026. Slide 18 speaks to independence, and we would like to make the communication to council that we have remained entirely independent of the county during the course of this audit. With the exception of the audit of the financial statements, we have not provided any other financial services, and we have complied with all the ethical considerations as required to carry out this audit. And probably with that, I come to the most important slide on this presentation, and this relates to the auditor's report, which the audit opinion which we have issued for the year ended December 31st, 2025. It's essentially the end result of all the months of hard work that's gone into this audit, and we would like to state that we have issued a clean opinion on these financial statements. The wordings which you see in front of you have largely remained unchanged year over year, so I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but the great news is we have issued a clean opinion on these financial statements. The rest of the slides does contain a number of useful links and information which I very much encourage council to review and go through. And we do have a slide over here on page 41, which speaks to upcoming changes in terms of accounting standards. So there is none which pertains to the year 2026, but for the year ended 2027, we do have a new standard, which is essentially going to result in a revision of how these financial statements are going to be presented. It's not really going to impact the actual numbers that's being reported, but it's more to do with the disclosures and how we present the information to council so as to improve the reader's understanding of these financial statements. And probably with that, I've come to the end of this presentation. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Councillor Weiss.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So the health unit is not a partnership, and therefore you couldn't include it in the audit in some way. If it's not a partnership, what is it, and what has to change for it to comply with the audit in the future?
So previously, the health unit in its previous form, which was essentially the Kingston Health Unit. Exactly. So the county had a share of roughly 21.3%, and they were able to exert some level of control when it comes to the operational activities, the financial results of the health unit. And because they were able to exert that control, the county was consolidating 21.3% of the health unit's numbers into the statements. Now, in this new structure, that percentage or that control has been heavily diluted, along with all the other upper tier municipalities. If I were to take names, for example, when it comes to Belleville, when it comes to the county of Frontenac, like all these shares have been diluted. And when management carried out the assessment as to whether it continues to meet the definition of a partnership, the result was it did not. So based on that, we can't consolidate the results of the health unit. And that was a stance taken by other municipalities as well. They all pretty much followed the same consistent approach, that our control in this organization has been heavily diluted, and as a result of which, as per the accounting standards, we cannot continue to consolidate the numbers. So, as I mentioned, it's the first year of operations of the health unit, and the health unit audit as well has not been completed so far. And from the looks of things, it's probably going to be a while before we actually get to see the results of that audit report. But as I mentioned, it's an exercise which needs to be completed year over year. And if, let's say, going down the line, if there was a change in the governance structure of the new health unit, then there probably might be a case to bring the results back onto the books of the county of Lennox and Addington. But based on the current or the present position, it does not meet the definition. And even if we were to include the results of the health unit, it would not be as material as it was in the past when we had roughly 21.3%. since it's been heavily diluted, the non-inclusion is not really going to misstate these financial statements.
Well, that's very interesting. It's just another one of those things that when there's a big change, there's details that still have to be looked at.
Definitely.
I'm sure we'll continue to work with the health unit, but it'll be interesting to see what develops in terms of the financial situation. Thanks very much.
Yeah, it's probably not going to be the last we hear of it, so yeah, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions or comments on the presentation? Seeing none. Just receive. I would entertain a motion to note and receive the presentation. Moved by Councillor Davison, seconded by Councillor Fritz. All in favor? Motion is passed. Thank you very much for the presentation and for all the work that went into it.
Thanks again.
Next item up is the Loyalist Ambulance Base. Oh, did I miss one? Oh, yes. On to step 2 of it. Whenever you're ready, please go ahead.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Warden. As we just had our audit presentation, I'd like to present a presentation to you on our 2025 financial statements. And I'm looking for council's approval of those statements so that we can close off the audit. So first of all, I'd like to begin with obviously thanking my department for working with the audit team from KPMG and their continued work and support in following up the audit schedules and the lead reports, and also with the departments for their communication and any direct correspondence that we needed with them to follow up on the audit to get things completed. So before you are the statements, the increase in net accumulated surplus is 2.6 million this year. The details are in the statements in your package. My presentation tonight will be a highlights and trends of those statements. Total revenues for 2025 were roughly $100 million. As you can see, and as we've discussed numerous times in budget, that we rely heavily on provincial grants. They represent about 48%, or in this case, roughly 48 million. Taxation is about 38.5%. Fees and miscellaneous revenues, 8.3%. Investment income, 1.8%. Municipal revenue, that includes our cross-border billing and our billing to Prince Edward County for our social services, is roughly 2%. Total expenses, this is by type, is 97.3 million for 2025. They're basically in line with last year's, so the percentage-wise. There is an increase from 2024 of about 2.3 million. I should going to revert back to the revenue. We had a decrease in revenue. Part of that was part of that prior adjustment for the housing, or sorry, not the housing, the health unit of 2.3 million, plus we had a decrease in some provincial grant revenue. There was a reconciliation from 2021 healthcare for the JMPC that we took a hit of about 700,000 in lost revenue. This represents the expenses by departments, and also if you look in the detailed statements down on page the segmented financial information, you can see the totals per each department. And roughly you can see that John M. Parrott Center, Social Services, and Emergency Services, they represent a high percentage of our expenses, but the corresponding is that's where we get most of our grant revenue from the province to help offset that. So when we kind of relate this to budget time, our budget levy increases basically on our infrastructure and roads and those type of services, but they're not funded as much from provincial grants. Net financial trends, they've relatively been stable for the last couple of years. This indicates our liquidity and how we can meet our current obligations. Oh, I was moving on mine. One sec. Sorry. Let me go back here. My projector in front of me has it on the net financial trends.
We'll need to stop the streaming to synchronize it again? Okay. So we'll just stop the streaming and be right back. Thank you for your patience. We are back streaming, and it looks like everything will be functioning now, so we'll continue on with our presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. And where we left off was on the net financial assets trends, and what this represents is our liquidity or our ability to meet our future obligations and any changes in that from year to year. And we are still fairly stable, which is good. As was noted earlier in the audit report, what has kind of influenced this for this year is the exclusion of the health unit. So that does affect some of these numbers in there, but in the detailed statements, you can see where those adjustments are made. There are single line items on those adjustments. So moving forward, we are in a good position with our financial assets trend on meeting our current obligations. Okay, the slide did change. So the capital assets by type is up from 184.5 million. Not to be repetitive, but it does exclude now the 21.3% of the old health unit. Obviously, the majority of our assets are infrastructure services of 75.2% or 19.2% for roughly 95% of our net book value capital assets is infrastructure assets. And as council is well aware, very costly items and ongoing replacements and improvements on those situations. Capital assets trend. This illustrates our increase in our capital assets investment. Not only are we continuing to invest in them, there's factors, costs of things have gone up over the years, so that doesn't inflate the prices, but we are replacing more than our amortization or depreciation, so we are doing a net gain on our capital assets and improving them and keeping them up to a very good condition. Our reserves and reserve funds by type is 31.1 million, up slightly to roughly 3 million from 2024. You can see the percentages of that. We do have a large surpluses in reserves for John M. Parrott Center and some emergency services from the funding that we received prior years. And I will be bringing back to council a report on our surplus and reserves as in prior years and where those come from. And we have built up the John M. Parrott Center reserve knowing that the reconciliations like we had from this year are coming forward and they need to be financed from that reserve, because there's a big hit, but they're like 4 years behind in those reconciliations. So that's why we're wanting to maintain that reserve balance in there for depending on what we get hit with all the funding changes that they've had. So here you can see the reserve funds, the trend. It's got increased since from 2021 to 2025. And as you know, we do fund our capital from portion of these reserves. Any surpluses that we do build up, and it's a fluctuation of in between. It's a combination of our capital assets from levy and from reserves. And I know in future, we'll probably have to look at some other alternatives for financing for debt to go into some bigger projects that the council may wish to do. Our total debt is down to $159.5 thousand at the end of 2025. The reason why it's showing a zero there, we had our 21.3% of the health unit before represented about $540,000 in 2024. They're no longer on our books. This debt will be paid off in October of this year, 2026, so the county will be in a debt-free position going into 2027. And then you can see the debt trend over the years. Just says that 159.5 was from our Meadow Lane social housing unit. That's what it's being paid off and will be done. Current year surplus is $290,000. As I mentioned earlier, I will be report back to council to discuss what to do with the surplus and with reserve adjustments. As you can see, health services mainly to do to that readjustment for the prior year's reconciliation. Social services has a surplus. Infrastructure services, the main categories. There was a hard winter, and we did have to pay the lower tiers some adjustments for the road maintenance contract. Community services, including the library, has a small surplus, and the other services, mainly that slight decrease is from unexpected, not as much supplementary taxes, and some higher write-offs, tax write-offs that we had when the lower tiers that has resulted in that. So it's a net surplus of $290,000 for 2025. Accumulated surplus is up to $216.9, roughly $2.7 million increase, and that's invested in the capital assets, less debt, your reserves and reserve funds of 14.5%. Current year surplus is a very small amount, and obviously we do not include the health unit anymore. That's why it is zero. It was there. So of the capital assets, net debt, you'll see this. These are all in note 12 of your financial statements, the surplus and the reserves. That represents that is $185 million is the 85.4%. And the reserves, as just mentioned, is $31.5 million, and current year surplus of $290,000. And here's our accumulated surplus trend since 2021, and it has been increasing, and it's in a good situation. So overall, that's I've finished my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions that council may have. And as I mentioned earlier, looking for your approval of the statements so we can finish off the audit and post them on our website.
Thank you. Council, any questions or comments? I'm saying none. Okay, great.
Just, I guess, one further point regarding the health unit. Financially, it wasn't recorded because of that 21.3%, but as I think council is well aware, we're still in partnership with the health unit. The county still has a say on what happens at the health unit. It's just more people at the table, but our share is probably equally around the whole health unit. So, but it's just on financial records; they're not included in the statements. Okay.
Thank you. In council, we do have the report with the recommendation before us. Would someone like to move the recommendation? Deputy Warden Fritz. So moved and seconded by Councillor Hook. Any final questions or comments? Call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. And we'd just like to thank the financial department as well as all of the departments, because it's a joint effort getting the audit completed. And so we'd just like to thank everyone involved for the hard work to get us to this stage. Thank you. Now, it's the Loyalist Ambulance Base Contract Award.
Thank you, and through you, Warden.
Yes.
We're seeking council direction to award the staff for the Lennox and Addington Loyalist Township ambulance-based construction. This contract was tendered. The winning, or the lowest bid, or the selected bid was Jeffrey G. Whalen's Construction. In consultation with Director Wager, he has no concerns with the construction corporation's ability to complete the construction project, and we therefore recommend we move forward. I'm happy to answer any questions for council.
Thank you. Are there any questions from council this evening? Seeing none. Oh, Councillor Calver, did you have a question?
Not a question, but just a general thing. It was very impressive to see all the quotes come in, and there wasn't a big spread between them, which is a good sign that things are starting to come back from the COVID wars. We'll say, if we want to say, because that's for a project that big, that's a lot of companies that are real close to one another. So very nice to see that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, the percentage of difference between them is quite low. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I would look for a motion. We do have the recommendation. Councillor Pierce?
I would like to move it.
So moved, seconded by Councillor Davison. Any final comments? Councillor Pierce?
Just that this looks like a tremendous asset to the to county and to the municipality, and I look forward to it being constructed. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. And the stormwater management system. Director?
Yes, thank you, through you, Mr. Warden. This is an annual report that we bring to council. It's part of the legislation required by the ministry for works on our stormwater system. As you'll note, there's no outstanding items to date, but I'd be happy to answer any questions should council have any.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Seeing none, we do have a recommendation for that be noted and received. Do I have a mover? Councillor Calver, seconded by Councillor Weiss. All in favor? Motion is passed. And speed limits on county roads.
Yes, thanks again, Mr. Warden, through you. This is a report. You'll see the bylaw in the bylaw section later this evening. This is a result of the council direction to reduce the speed limit on County Road 9 to protect the trees out in that area. Be happy to answer any questions should council have any.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Seeing none, could I have a mover to note and receive? Councillor Kelver, seconded by Councillor Fritz, or Deputy Warden Fritz. All in favor? Motion is passed. Early budget approval. Did you have anything to add, Director?
Nothing to really add. I'd just like to highlight that Center Street and the Odessa Street project are partnerships with our lower tier municipalities and are on timelines associated with those municipalities as well. And reports similar to this have been or will be brought to their council for the same approval. Happy to answer any questions should council have any.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from council at this time? I would just note that it did come to the lower tier last night and it was approved at Loyalist. So this is the follow-up, the other side of it for that one. So we do have a recommendation before us. I would entertain a motion to receive and adopt the recommendation. Councillor Weiss, so moved. Councillor Calver. Any comments? Call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. Routine maintenance of county roads and bridges. Director, do you have anything to share on this one?
I don't have anything to add, but I'd be happy to answer any questions should council have any.
Thank you. Any questions on this agreement? Seeing none, we do have the recommendation before us. Councillor Fritz, move the recommendation to be received and adopted. So moved, seconded by Councillor Weiss. All in favor? Motion is passed. Right to use and, right of use and maintenance agreement. Director?
Yes, through you, this is similar to the agreement we entered into with the Northern Snowmobile Club, the Caesar Group. Be happy to answer any questions should council have any.
Any questions with this item? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to receive and adopt. Councillor Kelver, seconded by Councillor Davison. Call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. Advisory Committee, the John M. Parrott Center Compliance Report, and Director Malcolm is not here this evening. The CAO will be stepping in.
Through you, Mr. Chair. I'm happy to try to answer any questions you might have, but most likely I'm bringing them back to you at the next meeting from when Angela's back.
Are there any questions to be presented this evening on this? Seeing none, excuse me. Could we, I would entertain a motion to receive this document. Deputy Warden Fritz, seconded by Councillor Weiss. All in favor? Motion is passed. And the department activity reports, administrative services.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm happy to answer any questions council might have.
Any questions on that report? Seeing none. Oh, sorry, Councillor Weiss.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just wondering, Brenda, what the meeting with Alto was like. Did you learn anything that nobody else knows, or what was your impression of the presentation? I'd just like your thoughts on the Alto situation from the county standpoint.
Through you, Mr. Chair. That meeting was held in closed session, so I'm not able to comment on it. I'm just making you aware that we actually did have a meeting. Unfortunately, I can't discuss it.
We just refused to sign a non-disclosure agreement with Alto at our meeting last night.
Yes, but they specifically requested a closed meeting of the board, of the caucus with the wardens, and because it was a closed session, I can't talk about what was in the closed session.
No, I understand. I'm just giving you a hard time for fun.
That's okay.
Excuse me. Any other questions? Seeing none, financial services activities. Director?
Through you, Mr. Warden, I have nothing further to add or highlight, but happy to answer any questions that council may have.
Any questions on this? Deputy Warden.
Yes, through Mr. Warden, it's more my curiosity, Mark, than anything. The new procurement coordinator position, does that get advertised internally first or not, or is it an external hire?
It's both internal and external. It's going out went out at the same time.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on finance? Seeing none, social services activities. Director?
Through you, Mr. Warden. The only thing I'd like to highlight is we have hired a replacement for the manager of social services responsible for housing. Her name is Catherine Heward, and she started last week. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that council may have on the report.
Thank you. Councillor Hook.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Just a couple of questions on the Ontario Works chart. It talks about, in the left-hand column, it's the Ontario Works adults and ODSP non-disabled adults. And I just wonder, what is a non-disabled adult under ODSP?
Thank you for the question. Through the warden, an ODSP non-disabled adult is generally a spouse who is employable, and they're referred to the Ontario Works office for employment assistance under the old model. Now they're being referred to the Employment Ontario office, and we really have no control over the referrals, the number of referrals, the outcomes, or anything at all like that. But generally, they're the spouse, the employable spouse, and sometimes the dependent adult. So an older child who might be 19 or 20 who is still a dependent on that ODSP disabled person's case.
Yes.
I may continue. So if someone is So if one of those non-disabled adults is referred to Employment Ontario, you refer them, and whether or not they go or not, we have no control over that. Is that correct?
The ODSP non-disabled adults are now being referred directly to the Employment Ontario from ODSP, so we have no control over the numbers of referrals that are being sent to Employment Ontario, and we also don't have any, I guess, responsibility for the outcome, because we don't have any impact on the outcome associated with that person. So it's kind of out of our control.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Deputy Warden.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I think I had a question on the same chart. Lynn, under Ontario Works, on that second row down, that starts with Ontario Works adults and ODSP non-disabled adults with participation requirements are referred to Employment Ontario. The question really is, the provincially assigned target is 51% and the provincial average is 15%. Why is there such disparity sort of between the province's target and the achievement? There's more to it than what we can read in the chart. So,
yes, thanks for the question. Through you, through the warden, to Councillor Fritsch. There really is, there's no control over this at all. The province sets the targets. It's kind of a, we didn't know what was going to happen, and so they've just assigned a target. There's no clawbacks or anything at all like that for not achieving the target, but thankfully we are doing better than the provincial average, so that's always a plus.
thank you.
Any other questions this evening? Seeing none. Communications and Community Development Services activities. And just before I go to the director, first off, welcome. This is your first official meeting, and it's great to have the chair filled. And you did hit the ground running. We've already done some work before now, and you've only been here for, what, a week and a half, give or take? A week? So welcome, and if you, anything additional to share this evening?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. It is indeed my pleasure to address Council this evening in this capacity for the very first time, though I admit it has been necessary for me to sit on my hands every time the question is called. I want to sincerely thank Council for their very touching support for me and to me in my transition in this role, and thank you also to my staff colleagues for their incredibly warm welcome. Through you, Mr. Chair, in addition to the report that's before Council, I would like to mention that earlier today at the Napanee branch of the Lennox and Addington Library, our Member of Provincial Parliament, Mr. Rick Brzee, announced that the Ministry for Seniors and Accessibility is contributing funds to our Older Adults Empowerment Series, part of the ongoing work the LNA Library does to support healthy, physically active, and socially connected seniors in our communities. These funds will support several purchases ranging from sewing machines and a VHS to digital format converter to hiring an instructor for chair yoga. I'd like to thank the warden for taking the time today to support the announcement, and to Allison D., our Manager of Library Services, and all of her staff for the work they do to make our libraries the community hubs that they are. Thank you, Mr. Moore.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the director this evening? Councillor Weiss.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I note in the section under Museum and Archives a reference to the Canadian genealogical linkage or lineage being sought by American citizens, and my partner is an archivist with one area of the United Church, and she's been driven a little bit nuts by the number of requests that she has been getting, and it's taking a considerable amount of time. I'm wondering how much time staff are spending on this, if you have any idea at this point, Nathan?
So far, through the chair to Councillor Wise, so far my understanding from our archivist is that it hasn't been a major capacity issue at this point in terms of inundation with staff time. It's simply a representation of what traffic there has been. That of that traffic, there's been a substantial amount of people seeking that lineage. But
Thank you.
Any other questions this evening? Seeing none. Long-term care services activities, and I'll turn it to the CAO again.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Just one thing I'd like to highlight for council, but as well as for the public that might be watching. On September 18th, we're celebrating Long-Term Care Community Engagement Day. So on that day, the doors of John and Parrott Centre will be open for the public to come in and learn more about long-term care, the operations of the home, and we really welcome people to take advantage of that day. So that's September 18th. And I'm happy to answer any questions council might have, or try to.
Are there any questions on this item? Seeing none. Emergency services activities, Chief.
Thank you. Through you, Warden. Nothing to update on or add, but happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for the Chief this evening? Seeing none. Human Resources Activity, Director McGarvey.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I don't have anything to add or highlight, but I'm happy to answer any questions that council may have regarding the report.
Thank you. Any questions for Human Resources? Seeing none. Infrastructure Services, Director Wager.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Warden. I don't have anything to add or highlight, but happy to answer any questions should council have any.
Thank you. Any questions for the Director this evening? Seeing none. That completes the activity reports. I would entertain a motion to receive all together. Councillor Kelver, so moved, seconded by Councillor Hook. All in favor? Motion is passed. Alto Rail Project resolution. How would council like to handle this one? Councillor Wise.
Motion to receive and support.
Receive and support, so moved, seconded by Councillor Davison. Any comments from the mover? Seconder? Other members? Call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. Matters for information, we have three of them. The RCMP Musical Ride, Conservation Authorities Act, and MRI campaign donation. Were there any questions or comments on any of those? Seeing none, we would entertain a motion to receive them all. Deputy Warden, so moved, seconded by Councillor Pierce. All in favor? Motion is passed. Now we're to statements by members. Are there any statements to be made this evening by member? Seeing none. Notice of motion. Are there any notices of motion to be presented this evening? Are there any matters of urgency to be presented? Seeing none. Bylaws. We have the bylaw prescribing the speed limit on county roads. Do we have a mover for the first, second, and third reading and passing? Councillor Kelver, so moved, seconded by Councillor Hook. Call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. And we have the confirmatory bylaw. Do I have a mover for the confirmatory bylaw? Councillor Kelver, seconded by Councillor Davison. All in favor? Motion is passed. And finally, a motion to adjourn. Councillor Weiss, so moved, seconded by Councillor Kelver. All in favor? Motion is passed. We are adjourned at 7:43.